Hey everybody, Elizabeth Hines here from our Paleo family in the Autoimmune Free Cooking Club. Today I have a great recipe for you for a New Year's Eve celebration or looking ahead a little bit, Super Bowl, mozzarella sticks. So yes, we are paleo, which is dairy free most of the time. We do eat some dairy, and this is a case where we're going to have some dairy. And the reason is we are in this for the long haul over here. We are managing our chronic health conditions with diet and lifestyle. And a fried mozzarella stick, I'll just tell you, that is like my love language. That's the sort of thing that I really love. You can take your chocolate and your cakes and that kind of stuff and give me all the salty, crunchy stuff. That's what I crave. I miss onion rings like nobody's business. And I have made a couple gluten-free versions, but not very often. Anyway, that's the kind of thing that I miss. And we're in this for the long haul. This is a lifelong change for my husband and I anyway. When our kids grow up and get out of our house, we can't control how they eat, what they do. But while they're here, and for my husband and I anyway, we both have an autoimmune condition. We want to manage it with diet and lifestyle because we don't want the medication, and we don't want the complications, and we don't want the disease. So this works for us. And honestly, it's been like 3 years since I've made these. So this is not even a once a year treat. This is a really, really rare treat. But having something like these gluten-free, grain-free mozzarella sticks is what keeps us on track and, keeps us sticking with it, because I don't feel like I'm 100% deprived. So they're not hard, but they are a multi-step and multi-day process. So you need to plan ahead, unless you live in a science lab or something and have a super chiller or a restaurant, because there's some chilling involved, because you want your mozzarella to be nice and gooey but not melt all out of your breading, right? You want that crispy breading on the outside with the warm melty cheese on the inside. So we have a typical 3-step breading process here of 1.5 tablespoons of arrowroot. The recipe will be down in the notes. 1 large egg, which I've just beaten up. And then this is the outer breading, which is 3/4 cup of almond flour, a teaspoon of salt, half a teaspoon of salt, a teaspoon of Italian seasoning, and 1/4 cup of parmesan. If you need to be strictly dairy-free, but this is like your favorite food right here, you can find a dairy-free version of cheese and follow the same process. The dairy-free cheeses definitely melt differently, and so I don't know honestly how they will do in the finished product. But if you freeze the cheese like I did with my mozzarella, you should be okay. But I just don't know for sure, so I haven't done that. So the first thing you do is you take a pack of 12 mozzarella string cheese. Organic would be best, non-organic, that's what you want. And I just cut them in half because 1, it makes them a little bit easier to deal with, and 2, it's just built-in portion control. So you have 24 pieces. So I cut these and I laid them on a tray just like this, lined with parchment, and I put them in my freezer they really need to be in for a few hours. I ended up not being able to finish this process right away, so I pulled them out and put them in this Ziploc bag, but they need to freeze for at least a few hours. Sorry, they have a little bit of a freezer smell because they've been in there for a couple weeks, honestly. So first step is you want each of them to get coated in the arrowroot. I know 1.5 tablespoons doesn't seem like a lot, but it's enough. You could put this in a bag and toss them around, but I just have all these aluminum pie pans, and so I use these. So thoroughly freeze your cheese. Cut it first. It's a lot easier to cut it when it's thawed. Get the arrowroot all around. Tap off the excess. Now you want to keep one hand dry. The other hand you can put in your egg. Just coat them all the way, even on the ends. And once you have them coated, they're going to go back on your parchment lined tray and back in the freezer for, again, several hours, up to a day or so. If you want to leave them in there for longer, you'll need to cover them just so they don't take on that freezer taste. And then we're going to fry them in, like I said, I'm using palm shortening because it's less expensive than avocado oil, but any non-inflammatory oil, you don't want to use canola or one of those guys. So then you take your almond flour, Parmesan cheese, seasoned breading, and just get them all coated. And that's really all there is to it. Like I said, the only hard part is that it is time consuming, and you really can't cheat on that. You've got to take the time to let them freeze. I'm just kind of tossing them on the tray right now, but I will make sure that they're spaced out and not touching each other. My parchment's kind of buckling up right now. So what do you do for New Year's? I would love to know, do you have traditions? Do you travel? Do you spend with family, friends? Do you like a quiet night at home? I'm an introvert, and I really love a quiet night at home. I feel like I should want to go out and party, but I really don't. I love to stay home. Sometimes we're with family, sometimes not. My parents have their own active social life, so we do spend a lot of holidays and time with them, but they do their own thing on New Year's, which is fantastic. We don't have one tradition for New Year's because we're not always doing the same thing. We're not always at home. When I was single, so I met my husband at BSF, Bible Study Fellowship, which some of you may know. That organization is international. There are women's groups, there are men's groups, there are groups that have a program for children, and there are singles groups. Maybe they call them young adult, whatever, but you have to be single. If you get married, you get kicked out. We actually got married in May, and I believe we ended for the year in June. So when we came back from our honeymoon, they let us come to like the last couple, but then we had to join he joined a men's group, I joined a women's group after that. But that's where we met. All my good friends were there. It was wonderful. BSF was a really wonderful experience, and I love to be able to tell my children that their dad and I met at Bible study. So anyway, that group of friends was really, really active. I came at a time in my life when actually all my friends left. Most of my best friends got married right after college. I didn't get married till I was 28. And so they moved away, and all these people that I had grown up with, my people, my posse, they were all gone, and I was kind of lonely. And BSF was just a huge blessing. And then I all of a sudden had all of these wonderful Christian friends that were fun, and we used to go swing dancing, and we just hung out. We had a ton of fun together. Good, clean fun. It was wonderful. But anyway, New Year's Eve, somebody would host it. All the gang was welcome. We would do, like potluck. People would bring food, and they would do this thing. They just called it praying in the new year. And instead of watching the ball drop, we would all gather. Everybody would be all throughout the house, partying, whatever. And everybody would gather a few minutes before midnight, and we would start praying. Different people would pray, and just pray all through the stroke of midnight. And it was just awesome. It was such a gift. I was very thankful for those people. I hope my kids will have a group of friends like that when they're in their early 20s, because I'll tell you what, it made a huge difference in my life to have that positive influence. So what's happened here is I have too small of a tray, so I'm going to get a bigger tray. You want to make sure that you have enough space in your freezer to set your tray flat, and And again, with this part, make sure you're getting the ends. Okay, so I got a bigger tray. Just spread these out. You can use any kind of marinara sauce that you like. I first made this recipe for a Super Bowl party, and we also were having meatballs, Italian meatballs, and so that was perfect because I had all that sauce from the meatballs that did double duty as the dipping sauce for our mozzarella sticks. So you could do something like that, or just your favorite marinara tomato pizza sauce, either your homemade one or one from the store. Or actually they're super delicious, and like 2 bites each, you can just eat them without the sauce. So these are going back in the freezer just like this, uncovered, for several hours, and I'm actually not going to be able to get back to cooking them until tomorrow. So I will show you that finishing process and how they turn out tomorrow for me, in just a split second for you. Hi everybody, Elizabeth Hines here from our Paleo family and the Autoimmune Free Cooking Club, and I'm finishing up our mozzarella sticks. And guess what? I don't have them out of the freezer. So I showed you how to get the breading on them. I laid them out on this tray, actually, on parchment paper until the breading was set and frozen solid, and then I just put them in this baggie and put them in the freezer, and they've been in there since yesterday. And now we're ready to fry them up and have mozzarella sticks, which is going to be amazing. This isn't going to be our dinner, it's actually a leftover night. So I have a bunch of leftover soups and things from the week, and I've been needing to make these, but it just hasn't worked with our meals. So it's going to be like a little appetizer for our dinner tonight of leftover soups. And it's super easy. This whole process, as I explained when I was doing the breading, is easy. It's just a multi-step process. So it's a special thing. I think I said we've had these last about 3 years ago. So this is not a once a week treat, a once a month treat, or even once a year treat. This is a not very often treat. But man, is it a treat. So in this pan, this is my, gosh, I think this is about a 7-inch skillet. Oh, let me see. All right, so these are my grandma's cast iron, and just forgive me, maybe one of you knows, and you can tell me. A lot of cast iron skillets have a number, the old ones anyway, have a number on the handle, and I just don't know which way I'm supposed to read it, because this one is either a 6 or a 9. I feel like my bigger one is the number 9, but I just don't know. I would say it's about 7 inches across. No, it's probably bigger than that. I don't know. Can you see how big it is? That's how big it is. You don't need a great big giant skillet, because you're really only going to do a few at a time, because you need to stay on top of it. And if you have a great big skillet, number one, that takes a whole bunch of oil, which, you know, you're just throwing it away when you're done. And also you'll be just crazy flipping them and stuff. So I just do a few at a time. I have palm shortening in my skillet, which is solid at room temperature. So here in the South, in the summertime, in my cupboard, in my air-conditioned house, my palm shortening will be pretty soft, and even, like, usually in the middle, there's this little melted section. In the wintertime, it's solid, like the consistency of Crisco, that sort of thing. But it's a sustainable product. I buy mine from Tropical Traditions. I will link that in the notes below if you're interested in a good high-quality palm shortening. I use it for baking a ton. Palm shortening is what I would recommend for dairy-free baking. It just works very, very well as a butter substitute. Also, like if I'm making a gluten-free cake mix or something and it calls for oil, I will use palm shortening and simply melt it. And if I ever fry something, like a deep fry, I will fry in palm shortening. It's less expensive than my avocado oil. You just want to use an oil that works well at high heat. This is a candy thermometer, and I want my oil to be right about 350 degrees. And so you can do the little test where you drop, some people do water, but I wouldn't do water because then that's going to tend to splatter on you. But I would tend to take like a little piece of my breading and put it in and see if it sizzles. That's what I typically do. But I did want to show you this thermometer. We went 350 degrees Fahrenheit, and you want to get it in the oil but make sure it's not touching the bottom of your pan. And that can be tricky when you don't have a lot of oil in there. I try to put in enough oil so that, you know, once it's melted, it will go up about half the height of whatever it is that I'm frying. I don't want to submerge it all the way. You just don't need that much. It's just wasteful. I do want to make sure I'm getting the temperature of my oil though and not my pan. And then on my other burner, I just have a jarred pizza sauce that I like. This is one that's really good and chunky. It's all organic. It doesn't have any sugar or any weird stuff. It's just tomatoes, garlic, onions, typical Italian spices. So we'll have that for dipping. It, you know, if we want, these are actually so good. You don't really need to dip. I like the cast iron because number one, it's mostly what I'm cooking with these days. Number two, it will retain its heat really well. So you want to use your best pan for this. I wouldn't recommend anything Teflon coated. You just don't want to get it that hot. So we're about 300 degrees. For those of you that are new here, welcome. I would love it if you would introduce yourself in the comments. I'd like to get to know my regular viewers. My subscriber count really jumped up this year, and I'm so pleased. I know a lot of that's because of the Instant Pot recipes, but I do think as well, from what I have heard from you, that a lot of you are subscribing because you're trying to eat the way we're eating. You're trying to manage some kind of disease, whether it's yours or your children's or your spouse's, or just improve your health in general by eating better, but you still want to eat good food. And so that's what I'm here for. And so I'm happy to have you. I would love it if you would consider subscribing, hit that little bell so you'll be notified when I publish a recipe, which is almost always Wednesdays. This past week we got it up on Thursday. My hubby just got home. Yay! I thought that he would be really stuck in traffic tonight, and he got home fast, so I'm super excited about that. We're almost up to 350, so I'm going to go ahead and get myself ready. Whenever you fry something, when you take it out of the fryer, you usually want to hit it with a little bit of salt. So I have my Himalayan pink sea salt shaker grinder right here. And I have my tray with a paper towel. I have forks and I have a spatula. I'm just never quite sure exactly what I'm going to want to use. I'm not writing anything down, so let me get these out of the way. And you don't want to throw things in to hot oil. You see we got the sizzle there. That's perfect. There might be one more. And when they start to brown, we'll flip them over, hopefully just a one time. Hopefully I'll get it just right. And then take them out. As soon as you put something cold in, the temperature of your oil is going to go down. So we'll have to be kind of continually fiddling with the temperature gauge. Let me taste my sauce and see if it's warming up. I didn't want it to pop all over me, so I had it on low. No, it's ice cold. So I can see, if we zoom in from above, right around the edges there, that one is browning. They're not sticking to the bottom. The point of freezing the cheese with the breading is so the cheese just doesn't all melt out in the skillet. You want the breading to get crispy, and you don't want the cheese to all explode out. So yes, I am a paleo channel, and this is cheese, which is not paleo. However, we actually handle dairy okay right now. You may have found through your own health journey that sometimes you can eat a certain food with seemingly no problem, and then other times it bothers you a lot. We're in a phase where we're all doing okay with dairy, so we're really enjoying it. Almost always we go with the grass-fed version. This mozzarella is not grass-fed. Couldn't find any actually wherever I was shopping that day. So this is simply organic. But it's such a treat. It's the kind of thing that I love. Love, love, love. I don't know that I ever even really ordered it in a restaurant. I waited tables in an Italian restaurant in college, and so I had mozzarella sticks then occasionally. Okay, so let me show you. crispy on the outside, melty, gooey on the inside. My oil's getting a little hot. Oh, it's so good. It's so yummy. Let me dip it in my sauce. Even with the sauce ice cold, it's so good. I want a little more salt on it. So yummy. It's such a treat. So this time I put in 7. The first time I only put in 5. So, you know, go back to school and do your physics. The more I add, the more the level of the oil will rise. And I told you I really wanted the oil to come up about halfway, so I really only had to flip them twice. I don't know if you noticed, I had to flip those a couple times to get them browned all the way around. So there was space in there. They're not overcrowded. I was able to add a couple more. That made the volume of the oil rise a little. And then hopefully I can just flip them the 2 times. All right, so I turned my temperature down because it's a little too high. I'm having to turn it back up. It's dropped a little too much. You can tell by how much it's sizzling or not sizzling. Oh no, I dropped it too much. It's going to be okay. Your food will tend to get greasier if your temperature is too low. Instead of just crisping up the outside, it will absorb the oil. So it's going to come back up and finish that other batch, and then I'll get more in here. So I'm getting ready to open up enrollment in the Autoimmune Free Cooking Club, which is just a place for people who are wanting to manage a chronic disease naturally. You get lots of recipes, support documents, you know, just for various topics, kind of whatever we're covering at the time, and health coaching, functional medicine health coaching from me. What's the state of the current research on various topics. We get together weekly to support each other, hold each other accountable if that's what you need. Some people really like that accountability. Some people like the, it's like a self accountability. I don't know how else to say that. Some people want to come to the group and say, I'm giving up sugar. Will you please check in on me and see how I'm doing? And other people just want to know that they have made that commitment to themselves, and maybe they've told the group, and then they come to the group meetings and they don't want to talk about it. They don't want me to check in on them, but they feel they are holding themselves accountable just because they have told the group. Does that make sense? So there is so much power in that group mentality. The feeling like I want to do a good job because I'm going to go to that meeting on Thursday, and I want to be able to tell everybody that I did a good job, that I didn't have any sugar, or I only had 1 soft drink, you know, whatever it is. So we're that for each other. It's really a wonderful, sweet community. And so if this is a life you're trying to live, you're trying to manage a chronic condition with diet and lifestyle, I would love for you to consider joining us. I'm going to have another chew-sit. If it wouldn't make me sick, I could eat them all. I could. I physically could eat them all. I love it. It's so good. Such a special treat. And I want you to see this one kind of exploded out of its skin, but it's okay. It just sort of seared the cheese right there. It's totally fine. I've got 2 more. I think I can probably get this one in. If you have a child with an autoimmune disease that you are trying to manage with diet and lifestyle, and maybe you've reintroduced dairy, this is the kind of thing that will keep you going for a long, long time, because if you feel deprived long term, it's really hard to stick to a diet. So, you know, when you have a child, you're managing what they eat, but when they go to Sunday school or school and there's a class party, or, you know, when they're out of your sight, if they're just really feeling deprived, they're much more likely to be disobedient and choose to have the food that may, at the very least, make them sick, at the worst, put their life in danger. So if you can have a treat, whatever treat you can have, and not totally derail your health, your progress, have it. You know, announce it, put it on the calendar, talk about it in your family meeting, whatever it's going to take, so that everybody knows it's coming. You can look forward to it. And I let those get a little too hot, but look, it's okay. Build up that anticipation and then really, really enjoy it. And so that's what we have here. I have been really looking forward to these cheese sticks for several weeks now. That's when I first cut the cheese and put it in the freezer. And we're just now getting to eat them. And I'm telling you, I'm gonna super duper enjoy my fair share. So this will be great for New Year's Eve. This will be great for Super Bowl. You know, anytime you just want like a special snacky supper, maybe somebody's birthday. Again, I wouldn't recommend this often, at most maybe once a year, but if this is the kind of food that you love and you're feeling like you can't ever have it, you can have it, just really occasionally. Make it at home, it's not hard, and really enjoy it, and then get back to your veggies and your meats the next day. But enjoy this guilt-free. I'm going to enjoy another one guilt-free. I think I'm going to have this one that got extra gooey. Merry Christmas to me. Happy birthday to me.